So today we have with us Munaf Zina, is President of Council of Indian Muslims, UK. You are here in Chicago to attend IMC convention. Tell us about your organization, Council of Indian Muslims.
The Council of Indian Muslims was formed in the aftermath of the 2002 Gujarat genocide. It's an advocacy organisation. In the UK, it was the first organisation to start working on the Gujarat genocide issue in terms of raising awareness. We very quickly became the national organisation. Although when we first started off, it wasn't as an organisation, but it was the very next day the organisation was formed due to some default circumstances. Really what we were doing was, initially for the first 8 months after the Gujarat genocide began, I was almost working full-time on raising awareness, going to different meetings, raising issues with members of parliament and organising lobbies and all that sort of thing. So initially our time was taken up doing a lot of that. We published a book to, I think it was on the first or the second anniversary of the Gujarat genocide starting, on Ehsan Jafri and the Hindutva ideology, and to explain that to people. There was an opportunity to do that. We published Muslim India magazine, so we publish that from time to time. Basically, I think what we do is we are a monitoring organisation. We monitor developments which are taking place back in India particularly. But not only against Muslims, but also we monitor developments which are taking place against other communities, maybe against Hindus in Bangladesh, or maybe Sikhs in Pakistan, and we look at that and we respond to that too, because we value human rights for all, and although our focus of work is promoting the conception of justice for Muslims, we reasonably can't be expected to ignore such things happening against other communities.
Yeah, what are the people Indian Muslims who are outside India, what can they do to really help their brothers in India?
Well, we are not involved in relief work,
okay.
Because we're involved in advocacy work. One of the things that they can do is we need to create people who have different skills and abilities. So we have a network of contacts within our reach, of people who can ideally do some IT work, somebody can do a documentary, somebody can do something else. So we have people who can complement each other. So we need those talented people to come on board, firstly. Secondly, we need to move away from thinking that advocacy work, prevention work, in a sense, prevention is better than cure, but people don't understand what that concept means. And perhaps this is different, slightly different, and I don't think it's that different, having spoken to some people here, that people don't understand what we mean by prevention is better than cure. We tend to react to situations after something's happened. And that's the mentality needs to be changed. And for that, what we need to do is raise awareness. And who can fulfill this responsibility? The best people to do it would be masajids, the imams of mosques, because they...
Are you talking about in India?
I'm talking about generally everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the masajids, the imams. But your particular question was more focused on what the diaspora could do. And maybe because I haven't visited that many mosques in America. Yeah. In England, we have mosques which some are predominantly Indian Muslims. Okay. So Indian Muslims could be addressed and say, look, these are the problems, and your contribution is required. So it's about raising awareness and about saying how these people can help. It's about people joining in, becoming members. It's about people giving their resources, and keeping the body accountable. Because if there's no accountability, it allows people to run organizations in the way they see fit, and that is not healthy, because if we, on the one hand, we talk about strengthening democracy back in India, but they're not democratic ourselves. So in that sense, it's the responsibility of the masses to engage, so that they can be kept accountable.
Where do you want to see Indian Muslims in, say, 10, 20 years in India, that you'll be happy that, they have achieved?
I want to see, 3 years ago when I was at the Detroit convention of the IMC, one of the things I argued at that particular meeting, which was, I think Biju Matthews contradicted me, because I argued at that point that there's economic development taking place in India, and we should not miss the boat. Despite the fact that you've got human rights abuses taking place, we cannot ignore the economic development, because if we miss the train, we miss the train. His view was development is not important. His view was that human rights is far more important. If you don't have human rights, you don't have anything. I disagree with that concept. I'm more progressive minded. So in a sense, what I want to see is Indian Muslims progressing, being able to coexist peacefully with different sections of the Indian community, for them to be able to live there freely, for them to be able to freely practice Islam, for them to be not second-class citizens, and for them to feel that India is their country, to create a sense of belonging, to have a sense of community. At the moment, there is no sense of community. And how do you create that sense of community? You create that sense of community. And I think Indian Muslims are almost there in a sense, because from my own experiences, and if you look at Muslims who come from Pakistan and Muslims who come from India, Indians are more secular-minded, because we have grown up in an environment where we're surrounded by people of other faiths. So we are naturally more tolerant of other faiths. So in that sense, we don't have a problem with that. Yeah. But what we do have a problem is our lack of political engagement, where we think politics don't matter, or the lack of opportunity to get engaged. And what we need to work on are the structures that prevent us from getting there. Because if you don't deal with the structures, then you can bang your head against the wall, but you won't actually get anywhere. So it's about looking at some of these issues, identifying some of those issues, and working on them, rather than having necessarily conferences and conferences and conferences and debate and debate and debate. We need to act. And that itself is a complicated move. It's not as easy as it seems, because how do you get your message across? You need that social mobilization. If you want Indian Muslims to mobilize, then who's going to do it in India? Yeah? What role are we going to have? Are we going to set up our own offices there? Yeah. What is the role of the imams going to be? We have to also learn from historical mistakes that have been made, where groups have fought against each other, and that has caused a problem. So there are many, many problems, but we need to start working to some of these solutions.
So one last question: do you consider yourself Indian Muslim, British Muslim, or what?
For me, this is a question that people ask me all the time. They ask me the question: are you British first or are you Muslim first?
Yeah.
So nobody's ever asked me, are you Indian or are you British? But my answer to this has always been, and will always be, that there is no contradiction. We live in a globalized world now. We have multiple identities. In fact, when I was asked this question by LA Times a few years ago, and I said, I'm British, but I'm more English. And my friends used to say to me a few years ago that you're crazy. Are you a coconut? You're brown from the outside and white from the inside. I said, you don't have to be white to be English. And the reason I say I'm English is because I want to create that sense of belonging, a sense of identity. I want the opposite party to realize that I'm here to stay for good, that this is my country as well as it's yours. So identity is about multiple identities. It's about being Muslim when I want to be a Muslim. You're always a Muslim. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'm not saying you're Muslim first. What I'm saying is you're always a Muslim, but identities come to play in different ways at different times. And that's, for me, the most important thing.
Thank you, Dr. Zina, talking with 2circles.net.